and welcome to Science with Me. My name is Dr. Erica with Rosie Research, and I'm so excited to be back with another Codeblocks tutorial with Tinkercad. We are in a Harry Potter unit, and one of the things I love to make is Harry Potter wands, and this one we're going to make so you can light it up. It'll have a spot for your CR2032 battery, and we'll show you in another video how to wire it up with some copper tape and an LED. So our wand is going to have two pieces to it. There's going to be the piece you hold in your hand and then the piece that extends out. And that just helps us send it in the mail to you guys. Our patrons can have us 3D print all of their projects that we make in Codeblocks. We always make them thin so they ship in a normal thing, and this will help us keep it in an envelope. So let's get started. The first thing that we should create is our handle. So I'm going to create a new object and I will call this my handle. And I kind of want the handle to be nice and round, and at the bottom of the handle, I'm going to put a circle for my CR2032. So I think what I'm going to do first is make that spot for my CR2032, and I can do that by adding a circle. Now the 2032, the 20 tells you the diameter of that battery, so it's 20 millimeters in diameter, which would be 10 millimeters in radius. But I do want it to be a little bit bigger so I have a spot around the battery. So I'm going to do maybe like a 12.5 here. We'll change our height to 4. And I want it to look round when I print it, so I'm going to change those sides to 50. And then I'm going to add a hole so I can erase part of that. This way it's just a cylinder. It's going to look like a coin. And I want to erase a hole for the coin cell battery to live in. Now, even though a radius of 10 should perfectly fit a 2032 battery, it never quite works out perfectly. So we could do like maybe 10.4 or even 10.3. Let's keep it at 10.4 though. And we'll have a height of 4 here as well. And that will cut the hole all the way through. And then we can just move it up by 1 maybe if we would like to. Let's see. We can look at what this looks like if we were to group these together. I'm looking at the inside's going to be a little sort of ragged. Let's change those sides to 50 as well, so it's a nice circle. You can see I have this beautiful spot for my coin cell right there. Alright, so now let's make the handle part, and I would like the handle sort of to be this nice curvy oblong thing. And if I look at my shapes, there's nothing that quite looks like a handle, but I could use this rounded roof and maybe rotate it and scale it so it looks like what I was hoping. So let's try that. Let's rotate this guy. So let's go to modify. We will rotate it around the X by 90 degrees. That should work great for us. And then let's scale it. So let's make it sort of longer. Maybe X could be 1.2 to make it a little wider. And let's try Y is 9. Let's see what this looks like. Alright, so this is kind of what I'm looking for here, but I definitely need it to be thinner. So let's change that Z. Let's try 0.2, and let's see if that gets to the thickness that we want. Oh, that's beautiful. That's exactly what we are hoping for. Fabulous. So let's create a group of this. And we should move it first before we create a group, because that's not quite where we want it to be, is it? So let's move this. We'll put that above the grouping. And let's see how much we have to move it by. Let's see if Y is minus 20. Where do we get to? Okay, let's keep moving it a little bit more. Maybe minus 40. And then we'll move it a little bit more from there. So let's do minus 45. And I think that is going to be great. You can kind of see how this is coming together, where this is the part you hold on to. It's got this nice rounded part at the bottom. Alright, so let's create a group. Oops, we already had our create group. Alright, so let's actually take this create group out, because then this hole will also cut a hole in the blue. So we can see the difference that that makes. Now that hole cut through all the pieces instead of just the orange and not the blue. Alright, now let's add a new piece of a cylinder. And we'll use the cylinder to cut a hole through the bottom of this, leaving a little bit of a lip. and that will allow us to access the bottom of the battery. All right, so let's come up here. We'll pull out the top, one of the top ones, the cylinder. You're gonna attach it at the bottom, make it into a hole with this gray part. That means it's negative space. And let's make that maybe a radius of 9. The height, it's a hole that we're gonna cut all the way through, so I don't mind about that. Let's keep everything looking like a nice circle, so we'll do that as 50. Let's see what this does for us. We should create a group in our modify, and then we can run it. And you can see that now we have this little platform for that battery to sit on and a hole where we can access the bottom of the battery, which is good for our wiring. One thing that would be useful though is to have part of this sort of filled in where the copper tape on the backside could come here and fold around that and then just make automatic contact with the bottom of that battery. That would be really useful. A little bit more programming now, but it would make wiring it up a lot easier. So what we can do is let's put another roof in. I'm going to change the color so they don't get confused between the two. And let's go to our modify. We will rotate this around X in 90 degrees. And we are going to need to scale it because it's going to be really big. I don't want it to be 4 thick. 4 millimeters thick was what happened when I scaled this by 1. So maybe if or by 0.2, sorry. Maybe if I want it to be 1 millimeter thick, instead of scaling it by 0.2, I could scale it by 0.05. And that will get it nice. We're gonna move it down and up at the same time. So come and grab a move item. And we will move it in Y, let's just try by -5. Because the negative Y is going up that way, which is slightly confusing sometimes. And let's move it down in Z by -1.5. And that should line it up flush with the bottom. There we go. And so you can see how the copper tape on the back side could come down here and then flip over and make contact with the bottom of that battery. Great. Now I want to add some stuff up here. I'm going to make some holes that will allow me to really easily attach the other piece of the wand that's going to extend out into the world. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to use a box. And let's make our box, it's going to be a hole. You can click on this arrow to get all of your extra goodies. Let's make it a width of 11.5. And let's try a length of 25. And then, let's see, our height, we can make it to be 5. That just helps us know exactly where everything is at. And let's see what happens here. So I get this lovely rectangle. We'll make the same sort of thing on our wand piece so they can slap together. But I need this rectangle to move all the way up here. And the way I can do that is with my move. And I can move Y, let's see, by maybe -80. That is looking pretty good, if you ask me. Let's see what it looks like when we create a group here. Nice. Now I don't want it to go all the way. I sort of want a ledge here, and the way that I can grab that ledge is in my move, I could move it up. So maybe I move it up by, let's say Z is 2, and we sort of have this beautiful edge piece. Now I could also clip this so that it's sort of nice and flat, and I think that's probably the best thing to do because when our wand comes in, we don't want to have to mimic this curve. It's easier if it's just a nice flat angle. So what we could do there is we could make another one of these. Let's make another box here that will also be a hole. And that box, we can make it the same width, and can probably make it the same length, but we're just gonna move it up more, and we'll keep the height. The height could be 20 would be just fine. Let's move this. Oops, let's move this up. Now before we moved it by -80, let's see what happens if we move this one by -85. And I'm going to take my create group out and put it at the bottom here. And hopefully it'll lop off that little spot right there. Beautiful. So you can imagine now when the other piece comes in, it can slot right in for that. So now I have a group out of all of this, and I think that's exactly where we're going for our wand handle. Although we could make a little spot for the switch, and we could make an indent where our copper tape sort of cuts right there, and we know where to make the switch. So if we wanted to do that, let's move our create group down again. We'll bring out another box, and it will also be a hole. And let's make this width a little skinnier, maybe 7. And the length of 20 will probably work great. We'll put a height of 4 so it starts leveled off with everything, and then we can move it pretty easily. And we're going to move it in Z by 3 maybe. That will give us sort of a 1 millimeter indent. And let's see what happens if we put it at Y is minus 50, which should be up over in this arena. There is where our switch would be, and I imagine if I'm holding with my hand, my thumb could easily get to that spot. So I think that's a great spot for that. And now we need to make our wand. Let's create a group here, and let's make our wand. So our wand could kind of just be a really long roof. That could work really, really well. And that will give us a nice parabolic shape to our wand. Oops, let's start off with creating a new object. We'll put that at the top, and we'll call this our wand. All right, and I'm going to use that roof piece, and like always, I'm going to rotate it around the X by 90, so that lays that roof piece down. And then we will scale it. And let's see, what do we want to scale it by? We could try sort of a Y is 15, a Z is 0.2 will give us a 4 millimeter thickness. You can see what this looks like. Kind of want this to be a little thinner, which would be reducing my X less than 1. So maybe 0.55. And that looks good. It looks like if I moved it up, it would actually fit into that slot really nicely. We need to make the slot piece on this side though, because if I just sort of jam this in, I don't think it's gonna work all that well. I guess we could have cut this whole piece out, but I do like the idea of them having supports on each other. So to make that slot piece, we'll grab a box and we'll make it a hole. And we'll make this width slightly less than this one. We'll make it at 11 so that we can guarantee that they fit inside of each other. And let's make the length 15 and a height of 4, and that really helps us know where it's at vertically. And then we can move it to where we need it to go. So we can go into our modify and we'll move. Let's try moving it by maybe Y is 70, and we'll move it up by Z is 2. We can run that and see where that goes to. And that looks like it's gonna lop off just the perfect spot. So we can create a group right there. And now our biggest problem is if you sent me this STL file, it would send it like this. And that's probably not so great because our pieces would print all together. So let's move our wand piece over and off to the side. So maybe just move X to 20. And that will move this wand over. And then if you're a patron of ours, you can send us this file. The way you get it is you go up to export in the upper right hand corner, and you would choose .stl, and you can mail that to us with your name, dash Harry Potter wand, and we will print it out. We'll put it in the mail for you, and then you can check out some of our other videos on how to add a little LED up at the top here. We'll add some copper tape wires going down, and we will get it all figured out so you have this great little wand that you can run around and play with and decorate. And I totally encourage you to add on your own things. If you wanted some pieces on the wand, you could add sort of different bumps. If you wanted different things on the handle, you could do that. As long as it stays 4 millimeters thick, we will be happy to ship it to you. Thank you so much for joining us in this amazing Tinkercad Codeblocks tutorial. We hope that you will find it fun and check out our other ones too. Have a great one. Bye, friends.